Ugh, well, fuck. What is up, my nerdy peeps? Hope you have an amazing day. So today I'm going to show you how to stamp bigger designs on nails that are slightly smaller, since if you're starting to get into the stamping world, you may have noticed some designs are engraved very big on the plate, and when it comes to stamping on smaller nails, sometimes the whole design will not fit on the nail. But there is a solution to avoid this type of end result, so you get the whole design fitting on your nail like this. And today I'm going to show you how to do shrinking stamping. So let's begin. I'm using this cool stamping plate I got off AliExpress. It's got quite a few different cartoon characters and it's a really adorable plate. I will put a link in the description where I got it from, as it's super cute. So there's many plates that I find they make the designs way too big, and I don't know if that's because they expect more people to do it on fake nails or if it's an issue when it comes to engraving the design on the metal plates, but a lot of times they are a little bit too big. Like here is just a prime example of this design on my normal nail, and as you can see the design is a little bit too big as part of the heart is missing. And the key to shrink the design is, what you need to do is with the stamper you actually need to stretch out the stamper a little bit. I recommend if you have one of the Moyou London stampers, they're quite good for the shrinking, as you can just flip the stamper on the back of the holder and that will stretch it out enough to shrink the design. Just be careful when placing the stamper on the opposite side, as because the holder is a little bit smaller you need to squish the stamper in delicately. Don't be too aggressive, especially with the clear ones, as they are more sensitive to rip compared to non-clear stamper heads. So how this works to shrink the design, since if you stretch the stamper out you spread the surface area of the stamper, and then when you stamp regularly and return the stamper back into place it brings the surface area down, making the design shrink in the process. So that's the key when it comes to shrinking stamping, is you just need to stretch the stamper head while stamping and then it will make the design smaller. As you can see, by shrinking our design, our goofy and the heart fits a lot better on our other nail compared to just regular stamping. So shrinking stamping is really handy when you just want to get designs to fit nicely on your nail. The more you can stretch the stamper when doing the stamping process, the smaller the design will be. I find the clear stampers are good for when you want to just shrink the design a little bit. If you want to make a design really tiny, then you want to use the non-clear marshmallow stamp heads, as the clear stamp heads are really sensitive, where if you overstretch them too much they tear pretty easily. So if you want to make a design super tiny, then I highly recommend you invest in some marshmallow non-clear stampers, as they're great for making designs really tiny, as you can stretch and pull them and you can pretty much do anything without them tearing. They're quite durable. Where, as you can see, the clear ones are pretty weak, and if you overstretch them they tear mega easily. This one's been teared pretty badly because I've done some shrinking stamping with it and it's just completely torn to shreds. So I highly recommend to only use the clear ones if you just want to shrink a design a little bit, but if you want to go into full tiny mode then definitely invest in some non-clear marshmallow stampers. I do recommend when it comes to doing shrinking with the stamp heads to put them in a holder, as it does make stamping a little bit easier, and you can also keep the image from not getting distorted. You can pretty much get the non-clear ones in any stamper holder. I've been able to get them in the square holders as well, and you can pretty much just jam the non-clear ones in because they're so durable. But just don't do this for the clear ones, as they will rip and tear. If you haven't got a holder or you can't get the design small enough for your liking, then the other option is you can do the shrinking manually with your hands. And what you want to do is you want to grab each corner of the stamp head and bring them into the center of the stamper, and then keep this position, and then you want to press down on the nail plate, and then that will make the design super small. But this method is a little fiddlier and it does take a few practices, and it's also more likely that the image will be distorted because you can't keep each corner in the same position as your hand slightly moves. So This way does take a little bit more practice, but if you haven't got any holders and you want to get it smaller, then you're going to have to do the manual shrinking to get tiny designs to work. So I'll just quickly show you how small you can get each design with the different shrinking techniques. Our first stamping we have here, this is our control version, so obviously we have Jerry from Tom and Jerry, and this is just regular stamping, so this is how big Jerry looks from the nail plate itself. And we'll try our first shrinking technique where we're just placing the non-clear stamper in a holder. So when you have the stamper in a holder, the stamping process is still the same. You don't have to change anything when it comes to stamping. The key is really just stretching the stamper out to make the design smaller. So as you can see, with placing a stretched stamper in a holder, we've probably made Jerry a third smaller than the original. So overall, having the stretched stamper in a smaller holder works wonders. The biggest nuisance with using the non-clear stampers is you just can't see when it comes to placing the design on your nail. So when I'm using a non-clear stamper to shrink designs, I normally turn the design into a sticker so then I can see exactly where I'm going to place the design on my nail. You just apply a top coat on top of the design to turn them into a sticker. I've just done this so we can move the original control Jerry next to our shrinked version so we can get a side by side, and I can also get my stamper back as I don't have many of the big marshmallow stampers. The type of holder you use doesn't matter, it's really stretching the stamper that is key. I've also repeated the same process here. The first version was with our circular holder. This version is with the square holder, and as you can see, Jerry has ended up as the same size as our circular holder. So the type of holder you use doesn't really matter, it's more about stretching the stamper head that is more important. And then finally we've got the manual shrinking, so just remember, place your fingers in each corner of the stamper and then bring them all to the center, and you want to keep this position whilst you're stamping, and then you just want to bring the stamper head down, press it on the plate and then bring it back up, and then release once you have stamped the design, and then the design will shrink. As you can see here, like I said earlier, this does take a couple of attempts to get it perfectly, as I did mess it up a few times before I got my perfect Jerry here. As you can see, the manual shrinking stamping works really well as our Jerry is tiny compared to the shrink version we did earlier when placing it in a holder, and really all comes down to the manual ones you can stretch a lot further, and it all really comes down to how small you want your design to be. So if you've got really tiny nails, you might find doing the manual shrinking a lot better than placing it in a holder. So at the end of the day, it all comes down to what size you want the design to be, but you've got quite a few choices in this video to show you the different ways you can change the size of the design depending on the size you're looking for. Overall, I hope you'll find this stamping hack pretty handy to use. I find it very handy, especially when it comes to placing designs on my pinky, as most often designs don't really fit on the pinky because it is your smallest nail, and that's when I use shrinking stamping the most to get designs on my pinky. If I want the design really tiny, I will do it on a non-clear stamper, and then I'll turn the design into a sticker by applying a top coat, and then I will place the design on top, then add a top coat so the sticker will then merge into my nail, and then I just remove the excess nail polish from my skin and cuticle area with some tweezers and a cotton bud dipped in nail polish remover, and then I just add a final top coat to seal everything in. And that's pretty much everything for the stamping shrinking hack. And if you have enjoyed this video, please leave it a like. I've got a few more nail stamping hacks coming up in the later weeks, so stay tuned for that. If there's any other items you struggle with stamping, leave me a comment down below and I'll get around to making a video about that. Or if you want some more stamping hacks, then also let me know in the comments. Basically, any questions you have about nail art, let me know and I'll get around to make a video about it. But just remember guys, keep being awesome, keep being amazing, and I'll see you in the next nail art video. Bye!